it. Let's do it. Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy May finale. Happy May-cember. Happy Romans finale. My name is Rachel Eslick. I am a civilian with the church, as in I come on Sundays. I love, love, love the message. And also a member of the gathering of Hope Ladies. So I'm honored to be up here. I get to do this for a living, like Maddie shared. And so I've chose a career where I public speak in front of hundreds of people. And sometimes I'm like, why did I do that? But I don't really get nervous doing that anymore. But tonight, to be so transparent, I am pretty nervous. And I think it's because I feel like a little bit of imposter syndrome of like, gosh, do I know enough about my faith to be up here sharing it, right? Sometimes I feel like the more that I learn, the less that I know. Does anyone else ever feel that way? But then, right, as one of my mentors, Terry, says, she's like, there is no accidents in the kingdom, right? Winks from God. Ironically, as I was feeling that of like, do I know enough to be sharing this message? The finale of Romans, what we're going to be speaking about tonight, is you have everything you need. And how to move God's mission forward is through those small moments and relationships. So if you ever feel that imposter syndrome too, you are in the greatest place in the whole world that you can be, because we're going to dive into how to kick it to the curb, all right? So let's get this party started. So this is myself, Rachel, as a little 7-year-old. To my left are two of my brothers, Royce and Riley. I grew up on a farm in the Dubuque area. I have 6 siblings. I have 1 baby right now. I don't know how my parents did it. I salute. So, right, once you have children, you have a lot more respect for your parents. So I am the 5th. All of the kids in our family are named with an R or a K, because my parents' name are Rick and Kathy. But we grew up on a dairy farm. We also had pigs. And growing up, would just go outside, do my thing. I would wear my tights, my fake jewelry, my favorite sweaters. I just kind of truly marched to the beat of my own drum. And I had a blast doing it, right? So I want you to picture like you 6, 7, 8 years old, and maybe you're the same old way, right? There's a version of you were so confident in who you are. You were never too scared to ask questions, right? No question was a bad question. When you went and you would get ice cream, you weren't like, hey, what flavor are you going to get? You just knew. You're like, I want Superman. Let's get that one, right? You didn't feel the need to shrink, and you weren't constantly comparing. But something happens as we get older, right? Like picture you when you're younger, like this big, and as you get older and older, the sound of your drum, right, it just becomes less and less. We stop beating to the beat of our own drum, because what comes in that place is, well, what if I'm too much? Or what if I'm not enough? What if I put myself out there and I fail? What if I try? What if I'm not doing enough? What if they judge me? The pressure to fit in. Am I making an impact? And then we start to think, this cannot be the version of me that God plans to use in this world. Like, like she needs some tune-ups before she can really make a difference. And if you don't feel that way, I love that for you. But I feel that way sometimes. Of like, what do you mean I'm able and capable and ready to start today? And right, in spreading God's mission, right, that help others know that they're loved and to know God and feel his presence and to move that forward. So let's dive a little bit deeper and let's talk about breakfast. Yes. So, as Maddie mentioned, I have a husband. His name is Jake. He is a firefighter for Des Moines. And a sweet little baby boy named Ricky Roy. This is when we first came home from the hospital. And my favorite breakfast food is pancakes. I'm convinced my husband makes the absolute best pancakes in the world. Love them so much. And Ricky will always have a pair of pancake pajamas in his drawer. And then here he was on his first birthday. And then I just added that in. So I just ran the London Marathon 2 weeks ago. And we are also expecting our second baby this fall. So that was, thanks, guys. So that, I'm not going to lie, it was hard, but I'm really, really proud of myself to run that pregnant. But all that to say, that's a little bit about me, but also, most importantly here, my favorite breakfast food is pancakes. So I want you to think, what is your favorite breakfast food? Right, that food that truly just gets you out of bed in the morning. And we're going to stand on up, if able, turn to your partner and share what your favorite breakfast food or where you like to go for breakfast. And we got 1 minute to do so, and I will let you know when we got 30 seconds left. All right, up and at 'em. Let's go. All right, we got 30 seconds left. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Let's find our seats, Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right, I always think this is very fun to poll. Who enjoys sweet breakfast? Show of hands. Sweet. How about savory? Okay. Who wants both? Both hands, up top. Me too, right? If you can get pancakes, eggs, and bacon, I'm like, sign me up. What's our favorite restaurant to eat breakfast at? I love Early Bird too. Early Bird, Waffle House, Homegrown, so good. Waveland, the Food Depot. I've never had breakfast there yet. Downstairs at Hope Grimes. Yeah. All right. So, right, these are all these things that make you you, that get you out of bed in the morning, make you excited. Now, picture this. You told someone, hey, my favorite breakfast food is Eggs Benedict. And they said, so wrong. No, it's not. Mm-mm. Right? These were like gifts, but it's all that to say they typically move, so that's why the faces are a little odd. But right? Stand there in your wrongness and be wrong. No, that is not your favorite breakfast food. We'd be like, what do you mean? Right? But if someone came up to you and challenged something about who you are, your gifts, your God-given abilities, your talents, we would stand there and say, well, maybe they're onto something. We will defend pancakes, but not ourselves. And we get back in the loop of, am I being too much? Am I not enough? Do I not have the right skills? Am I not worthy? Am I making a difference or impact anywhere? All right, so let's tap into the finale. All right, and added this little highlight here because maybe you're just freshly joining us and you're like, what do you mean? We're reading the book of Romans? What is that about? To explain the gospel and show how it transforms how we live. Paul writes the book of Romans, and majority of it, he's speaking about how to apply it, different changes that we can do to enhance our lives. And so here it all is. I know we're not going to read it all in this moment, but I really encourage you to go home and to read it. But we're going to break this down. So all of Romans, Paul is teaching, and then he ends it by speaking about other people and all the good things that they did. Paul is telling us, he's like, this is how we can apply it. These are things that we can do. This is how we can transform our life. And he does the finale, but he's like, you know what? I want to shout out all these other people and the goodness that they're doing. Because, that's where it all plays out, is the people. I like to have words on the screen because some people are like, I want to visually see it, read it, understand it. But in a nutshell, you do not have to be a worldwide super pop star to spread God's message. A lot of those people that Paul shouted out were people who were just mentioned in the Bible that one time, but they had everyday faithfulness and they were constantly faith-filled. And he's like, hey, they're moving the message along. They're moving the message along. They're moving the message along. It doesn't matter who you are or what you have. They're just showing up every single day and what they have and what they bring to the table. Because they're like, that's what the purpose is. That's what the mission is. So, what we're going to break down tonight, I know, exciting. How can we live out the finale of Romans? How can we take it from the most fabulous book to have ever be written, the Bible, and put it into action? All right, we have 3 main bullets that we're going to walk on through. You already have what you need. Yes, yes. You can share it with others. And it doesn't have to be grandiose. That other word for that could be big, but I thought grandiose is a very fun word. So that's why we added that in. So, are we here for that? Do we want to learn how to do those things? Yes. Okay. I'm gonna have everyone put their hands up just like this. Okay. Okay. We're gonna go up and down. Perfect. Okay. So this is called a party pump. Okay. So by a show of party pumps, are we ready to start living out that finale of Romans? Let's go! Look at that. 100% participation. All right. Let's do it. Point number 1. You all already have what you need. Every single person here. Every single person that you speak to in your life, they have what they need. They do. So, Paul starts off by saying, you're full of goodness. You know enough to teach each other. Which, right? No accidents in the kingdom, such a wink. Me feeling like imposter syndrome before I get up here. And I'm like, how about them apples? Right at the first few lines. Have enough to teach each other. So a few years ago, it was about 3 years ago, my husband and I started consistently coming to Hope Grimes. And I saw they had a women's Bible study. And I was like, well, that sounds fun. I'm just going to join on in. Yes, Audrey, I see you. Yes, right? Join on in. It was a Thursday mornings. And it was my first Bible study I'd ever done. And I had this idea to start this business. So I go to companies or speak at conferences, and I do leadership development trainings or whatever type of speaking that they need. And I go there. Anyway, way back when, 3 years ago, I had this idea. I was like, I think growth and development can be really fun. I think we can do it in a fun way. I had all these ideas. I was currently working in learning and development. I was like, I know I can do this, and I know there's a need. And it just stopped there. Because, right, it's scary. So I joined this Bible study, and I believe, Paul did not write this. This is a Rachel thought. I believe that God gives you, right, picture this, a tool belt. And in that tool belt, he gives you different quirks, talents, different life experiences, right? Sometimes they're hard ones. Also really good ones, right? Mind, all of these different things. And no one has that exact same tool belt as you. We all have our own custom tool belt. And that tool belt is meant to build that purpose, that thing. So for example, if my purpose was to build a skyscraper, no. If my purpose was to build a garden bed, and I see someone else, and they have a wrecking ball, but their purpose is to knock down and build skyscrapers, I can't be looking over at them and being like, why don't I have that? Because that's not my purpose. But right, you have exactly what you need in your tool belt for what you're meant to do. But so often we look at, well, what do you have in your tool belt? What do you have? What do you have, right? So God gives you these tools to be used and to not hidden. He gives you these tools to move these messages forward in a way that's unique to you. And so when I joined this Bible study, I had this idea for this business. And it was a Tuesday morning, and I wrote in it, it said, what do you want to ask God for today? And I said, I want to ask for alignment in my job, and I want to start my own business. Please speak to me. I was like, I know I can do this. I felt like the gifts and talents I brought to the table was energy, speaking, the belief, like I knew I had it, and I had those gifts and talents, but I was really, really scared. And I was like, God, please speak to me. And then the whole day went on. And then that Tuesday afternoon, right before Q4, what happens right before Q4? I will let you know. Companies have to restructure. And I found out everyone but one on our HR team was being laid off. And I felt many things in that moment, but one of them was, oh my God, I asked for a sign. And I felt like God handed me this glass crystal ball. And I was like, it felt like it was such a gift, but I don't want to break it. And my husband said, he's like, you would not have started it unless someone just kicked you. And it felt like that's almost what happened. But the reason that I'm sharing this right now is, well, one, praying is not a vending machine, right? It was really cool, but God's going to shape us and put us in situations to use our talents and our gifts. And it did feel very, very divinely led of, I was like, God, I know, I just have this idea. I feel like I have these gifts. I feel like I have these talents. Can you just speak to me and help align me? And I feel like he put me in a situation to use them, where I was like, okay, I can use them to positively impact others. And so it's a tale as old as time of the crayon versus the pencil. The crayon looks at the pencil and says, I'm just not sharp enough. And the pencil looks at the crayon and is like, I'm just not colorful enough. But you and I both know that each one has their gift and their purpose. Or how else would we take ITBS test, right? Like, we need them. We need them. And so there's tools in your belt. There's tools in your belt for us to help keep spreading, right, God's mission, to share the love in the world in those everyday small moments. We first got to recognize, what are some of those tools in our belt? What are some of those gifts that we really bring to the table? Because there's not a single person in the whole world who has your same exact life experience, outlook, perspective, that same combination. It is so unique. So right now, we're going to take a moment, and you're going to turn to your partner, and you're going to share, what's a tool in your tool belt? What is something that you really have that you can use to share with the world? And to help you get the wheel spinning, it could be a compliment that you've received, possibly have brushed off. Because, right, we're going to own it in here, right? Okay. What do people come to you for? Where do you get into flow state? You lose track of time. A skill, a talent. If you're having trouble of thinking of one, ask your bestie next to you, or send them a text. But we're not going to be shy about owning something that we bring to the table, because that's a gift from God, and we can use that to move a message forward. All right, so let's take a minute to do so. All right? Yes, and don't let your friend get out of it. You're worth it. You're worth it. on back. All right, let's hear 3. Okay, let's hear one from this side of the room. You are such a good listener. Yes. Okay, we got a good listener. You know what? Every single person who shares, should we do a party pump? Ready? 1, 2, 3. Party pump! Love it. Love it. Thank you for sharing. All right, we're at this middle row. What do we got? What's that tool in your tool belt you are going to use to move God's mission forward? Discernment. Yes, such a gift. All right, let's party pump to that. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Whoop, whoop. Love it. All right, bring us home. Compassion. Such a gift. Yes, thank you. 1, 2, 3. Whoop, whoop. All right. See, look at that. We don't need to be like more or better in some certain way. Like, you have what you need. You do, and these are gifts. They're gifts, they're gifts, they're gifts. And they touch people just all around you. So, love that we got in tune with those. And let's keep this party going, shall we? To point number 2, to share it with others. This can be this gift that we just spoke about, and there's even more to it. So, Paul shows us that what we have is meant to be used to support, encourage, and show up for others. So also a few years ago, I had kind of a weird accident happen. I was running a marathon, and I like to run marathons for fun. I don't know. So this winter running, I was like, I really got to pick up like cross stitching or something, because like it's getting kind of cold. But a few years ago, I was running a marathon, and like a half mile from the finish line, my heart stopped, and truly by the grace of God, like it just started up again on its own. Really felt God in my life that moment, and that's actually what really brought us to church. Anyway, we can save that story for another time. But I was down pretty bad, and I could be like a pretty positive person, but at this time I was like full-blown toxic positivity. I was like, it's fine, it's no big deal. But inside I was like breaking and crumbling, and I was so mad and sad and embarrassed, and I'm like, why did that happen? Anyway, I realized I was delaying a lot of healing because I was trying to cover it up. And my job at my role at my last job was to kind of be that go-to hype culture person. Someone needed something, I got you. You need uplifted, no problem. Building, just training, development, culture, all the things. And I felt like everyone was taken care of, even though I was kind of drowning inside. And maybe you feel like in a similar role in your job. But someone reached out and they're like, you seem a little off. And I was like, okay, here's what happened. And a few days later, I got this link in my inbox, and it was a kudos board. Has anyone ever seen a kudos board before? Okay, you should totally use it in your workplace. It's really cool. And it's free. It's like an online digital bulletin board. And over 100 team members had just taken a few quick minutes, or 30 seconds, and they picked out a picture and they wrote a nice little note like, thank you for encouraging us, Rachel. Like, thank you for always like showing up for us. Like, oh God, it makes me tear up right now. Right when you get those moments of like encouragement or appreciation. And I remember I was like scrolling, and I was like, I was just doing my job every day. I didn't realize I was making this impact. And this took people, just a few minutes or 30 seconds. And I don't work there anymore, but it's something that I still think about. That they took the time to just write that support, to share that message. And there's this quote, and I forget who said it, but it's, right, like, the words you say, like, will stay with someone, right, for a long time. Like, it might be a quick moment for you, but it can echo in their heads forever. For better, for worse, but we want to make it for better, right? We do. And so, kudos board. Great for team development. It's where is the receiver at? There, we're going to get it. thank you. Thank you. Hey, so here we go, right? Paul shows us, right, what we have, right? The compassion, the listening, the discernment. What we have is meant to be shared with others. And also when we're able to share some of that encouragement and that support. Because, right, you don't have to be a super worldwide pop star to spread God's message or his love. Things move through everyday people, right? Just like us, showing up in those connections and building those relationships. So I wanted to talk about encouragement real quick. Oh, that was a spoiler. Does anyone ever want to give encouragement or a thank you or a shout out, but we were like, or even a thank you note, and you're like, I'm not even quite sure what to say. I don't want it to sound impersonal. I want it to land. There's this little encouragement formula, and I thought it was really helpful, so I wanted to share it with you guys. So whenever you need to give encouragement to someone or support, and you're like, I don't even know what to say or do, so Dale Carnegie says that a person's name is the sweetest and most important sound in any language. So if you ever want to give a thank you or encouragement or support, starting with their name, what you noticed. So write something specific because you want it to really carry weight and land. What you noticed and why does that matter? And why does it matter? But guess what? We are going to put it into action right now. So if you have your cell phone out, we're going to think of someone in our life who we want to send a note of encouragement to or support and just thank you, right? Help them feel our love. Help them know, right, God is with them. Help them feel their shining bright light. So I wrote this, something I would text my husband. But as I was speaking about it before, I'd say, Jake, thank you for taking out the dishes every single morning before work. It helps me out so much that I can just fill it throughout the day. Just small little things like that. It doesn't have to be anything huge. But we're going to text someone a note of encouragement or appreciation or thank you right now. I'm going to do that. Right? Paul says it doesn't have to be grandiose. It doesn't have to be big. It's just these small little moments. So, right, maybe your talent, your gift is to be a connector or relationships. This is a way to spread that support in those small moments. And I highly encourage it to do it right now because when you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's Melissa's birthday. I got to text her. And then tomorrow comes and you're like, I forgot to text Melissa. Happens to me all the time. So just send a note of encouragement to someone. Kind of helps get the ball rolling. Help people feel your love, God's love, just your bright, shining light. I know someone said they have a gift of discernment, right? And so sharing that discernment with others or listening right when that's what people need most, being that listening for others, that is what we need. It's what others need. All right, we are going to keep on rocking and rolling. But you know what? You feel free to send as many of these as you want. God's plan, right? God's plan. All right, and our last bullet, right? How we're living out Romans. First is, right, remembering God has given us what we need. He's given you all unique talents and gifts. Second, to share it with others, to share that as support, that encouragement to breathe that bright, shining light and to use those gifts and share them. And lastly, it does not have to be grandiose. It does not have to be huge. It does not have to be dramatic fireworks, right? To loop it on back, right? There's this version of you when you were younger, doing all these great, amazing things, owning it. And then as we got older, we started to dim the sound of our drum, and we started to wonder, am I making enough of an impact? Am I doing enough? Is this enough? Is it big enough? Or maybe if you don't feel that way, does anyone ever shop for holiday gifts and you're like, I should probably get them one more little thing. It doesn't look like enough, right? It is such a toxic circle. So in Romans, Paul ends it, like I shared earlier, like he spends all of Romans just like dropping all this knowledge. He's like, this is how we can transform our lives. This is what we can implement. And then he ends it, the finale, and he's like, and I'm going to shout out all these different people and all that the good that they did. Many of these people, this is the only time you hear of them in the Bible. They did not have huge platforms, but right, they just showed up every single day, faith-filled and faithful. And they opened their homes to others. I believe one was like a prison mate. I'm blanking on all the things they did. But they just did, right, all these different things to just help move God's mission forward. Help show others that they are loved, that they are cared for. They all did a part. Yes, supporters, hosts, encouragers, just full of everyday faithfulness. It wasn't huge or grandiose, but God saw what they were doing. God knew that it was so good, even when it felt so small. Even those moments they're like, is this even making an impact? And it is. It is. And I get trapped in the go big or go home mentality. I'm like, what? You know what? It doesn't really have to be that way. So like I shared earlier, I chose to do public speaking for a career. And there are moments when I leave a conference or leave a workshop for a company, and I'm like, oh, that felt great. And then there's moments I leave, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go hide under a desk. This is fine. I should probably take up cross stitching. I'm like, that feels so awkward. And then I properly work through it by talking to my husband about it every day for 3 weeks. And he's like, and he just, very thankful for him. And there's a few things he brings front and center to me and reminds me. So a few years ago, when I started my business, is Jean Jansen here? So anyway, I went to college with Jean Jansen's daughter, Megan. Posted on LinkedIn, I'm starting my business. And she said, hey, there's this woman you got to meet. And I said, okay. She's like, her name is Terry Trask. And I said, perfect. So I messaged Terry and said, hey, this girl said I need to meet you. Do you want to meet up? And she said, sure. So we met on a little Zoom call. And she is one of the most influential, incredible ladies in my life. Oh my goodness. Very, very thankful for her. She lives in Cedar Falls. And she'd be a good person to come speak sometime. Anyway, with that, when I first started, Terry said, listen, sister. She always calls me. She's like, no matter what you do, your job is to bless, not impress. No matter what room you walk into, no matter who you're speaking with, you bless, not impress. And so, right, bless, serve, love, encourage, invite. Impress is like, status, attention. Did they like it enough? Was it good enough? And so it doesn't have to be this grandiose firecrackers, fireworks, when we're spreading the love, when we're showing up, we're sharing our faith. It's in those small little moments. And as the great philosopher Maddie Leisure says, she says this and it's good. It's the posture of your heart that matters the most. Right? It's your intention. And so, right, when I leave those sessions, but not even there, just anything in life, if I'm like, oh my God, not my best work, I remind myself, well, Rachel, did you show up to bless, not impress? And don't get me wrong, there's moments I'm like, nope, I got caught up in the impress cycle. And then it's those moments when we're overthinking and it's like, but was your heart in the right place? Like, right, we can't control other people's outcomes or opinions or feelings. We can't control those things. And we can ask ourselves, at least give ourselves some peace of, was my heart in truly the right place? And oftentimes it was. So it doesn't have to be huge or grandiose. In those small moments, is your heart in the right place? Right? And all these people, posture of their heart was A+. They just kept showing on up. Me, when I realized, okay, maybe the posture of my heart was fine. Anyway, but you know you're going to be living out Romans, right? I like to say the finale. When you use what you have, instead of waiting for more, instead of waiting to be like, well, when I'm better, when I'm caught up on sleep, when the laundry is put away, then I can start spreading God's message, right? No, but you have what you need right now. You show up for the people in your everyday life, right? Our assignment is those people right in front of us. Or you know what? It is the cashier at the gas station. You're like, I'm never going to see them again, but what they needed in that moment was your interaction, your gift, your listening, your discernment, your compassion, your empathy. That's what they needed. And choose to bless, not impress. Doesn't have to be huge, but just those small little moments make such an impact for them to feel God's love. All right. And we have some discussion questions. Have at it. And thank you for having me.